The wonderful city of Oz.
Чудесный город Оз.
The wonderful city of Oz. Even with eyes protected by the green spectacles.
Даже с глазами, защищёнными зелёными очками.
Even with eyes protected by the green spectacles. Dorothy and her friends were at first dazzled by.
Дороти и её друзья сначала были ослеплены.
Dorothy and her friends were at first dazzled by. The brilliancy of the wonderful city.
Великолепием чудесного города.
The brilliancy of the wonderful city. The streets were lined with beautiful houses.
Улицы были застроены красивыми домами.
The streets were lined with beautiful houses. All built of green marble.
Построенными из зелёного мрамора.
All built of green marble. And studded everywhere with sparkling emeralds.
И повсюду усыпанными сверкающими изумрудами.
And studded everywhere with sparkling emeralds. They walked over a pavement of the same green marble.
Они шли по тротуару из того же зелёного мрамора.
They walked over a pavement of the same green marble. And where the blocks were joined together.
И там, где блоки соединялись вместе.
And where the blocks were joined together. Were rows of emeralds.
Виднелись ряды изумрудов.
Were rows of emeralds. Set closely.
Тесно приставленных друг к другу.
Set closely. And glittering in the brightness of the sun.
И сверкающих на солнце.
And glittering in the brightness of the sun. The window panes were of green glass.
Оконные стекла были из зелёного стекла.
The window panes were of green glass. Even the sky above the city had a green tint.
Даже небо над городом имело зелёный оттенок.
Even the sky above the city had a green tint. And the rays of the sun were green.
И лучи солнца были зелёными.
And the rays of the sun were green. There were many people, men, women, and children walking about.
Вокруг ходило много людей, мужчин, женщин и детей.
There were many people, men, women, and children walking about. And these were all dressed in green clothes.
И все они были одеты в зелёные одежды.
And these were all dressed in green clothes. And had greenish skins.
И имели зеленоватую кожу.
And had greenish skins. They looked at Dorothy.
Они смотрели на Дороти.
They looked at Dorothy. And her strangely assorted company with wondering eyes.
И её странную компанию удивлёнными глазами.
And her strangely assorted company with wondering eyes. And the children all ran away.
И все дети убегали.
And the children all ran away. And hid behind their mothers.
И прятались за своих матерей.
And hid behind their mothers. When they saw the lion.
Когда видели льва.
When they saw the lion. But no one spoke to them.
Но никто не говорил с ними.
But no one spoke to them. Many shops stood in the street.
На улице стояло много магазинов.
Many shops stood in the street. And Dorothy saw that everything in them was green.
И Дороти видела, что в них всё зелено.
And Dorothy saw that everything in them was green. Green candy and green popcorn were offered for sale.
На продажу предлагались зелёные конфеты и зелёный попкорн.
Green candy and green popcorn were offered for sale. As well as green shoes.
А также зелёные туфли.
As well as green shoes. Green hats and green clothes of all sorts.
Зелёные шляпы и всевозможная зелёная одежда.
Green hats and green clothes of all sorts. At one place a man was selling green lemonade.
В одном месте мужчина продавал зелёный лимонад.
At one place a man was selling green lemonade. And when the children bought it.
И когда дети купили его.
And when the children bought it. Dorothy could see.
Дороти увидела.
Dorothy could see. That they paid for it with green pennies.
Что они заплатили за него зелёными пенни.
That they paid for it with green pennies. There seemed to be no horses nor animals of any kind.
Казалось, не было ни лошадей, ни животных.
There seemed to be no horses nor animals of any kind. The men carried things around in little green carts.
Мужчины возили вещи в маленьких зеленых тележках,
The men carried things around in little green carts, which they pushed before them,
которые толкали перед собой.
which they pushed before them. Everyone seemed happy.
Все казались счастливыми.
Everyone seemed happy. And contented and prosperous.
Довольными и благополучными.
And contented and prosperous. The guardian of the gates led them through the streets.
Страж врат вел их по улицам.
The guardian of the gates led them through the streets. Until they came to a big building.
Пока они не подошли к большому зданию.
Until they came to a big building. Exactly in the middle of the city.
Прямо посреди города.
Exactly in the middle of the city. Which was the palace of Oz, the great wizard.
Которое было дворцом Оз, великого волшебника.
Which was the palace of Oz, the great wizard. There was a soldier before the door.
Перед дверью стоял солдат.
There was a soldier before the door. Dressed in a green uniform.
В зеленом мундире.
Dressed in a green uniform. And wearing a long green beard.
И с длинной зеленой бородой.
And wearing a long green beard. Here are strangers.
Здесь странники.
Here are strangers. Said the guardian of the gates to him.
Сказал ему страж врат.
Said the guardian of the gates to him. And they demand to see the great Oz.
И они требуют увидеть великого Оз.
And they demand to see the great Oz. Step inside, answered the soldier.
Войдите внутрь, ответил солдат.
Step inside, answered the soldier. And I will carry your message to him.
И я передам ему ваше послание.
And I will carry your message to him. So they passed through the palace gates.
Итак, они прошли через дворцовые ворота.
So they passed through the palace gates. And were led into a big room with a green carpet.
И попали в большую комнату с зеленым ковром.
And were led into a big room with a green carpet. And lovely green furniture set with emeralds.
И прекрасной зеленой мебелью, украшенной изумрудами.
And lovely green furniture set with emeralds. The soldier made them all.
Солдат заставил их всех.
The soldier made them all. Wipe their feet upon a green mat.
Вытереть ноги о зеленый коврик.
Wipe their feet upon a green mat. Before entering this room.
Прежде чем войти в эту комнату.
Before entering this room. And when they were seated, he said politely.
А когда они расселись, вежливо сказал.
And when they were seated, he said politely. Please make yourselves comfortable.
Пожалуйста, устраивайтесь поудобнее.
Please make yourselves comfortable. While I go to the door of the throne room.
Пока я схожу к двери тронного зала.
While I go to the door of the throne room. And tell Oz you are here.
И скажу Оз, что вы здесь.
And tell Oz you are here. They had to wait a long time.
Им пришлось долго ждать.
They had to wait a long time. Before the soldier returned.
Прежде чем вернулся солдат.
Before the soldier returned. When, at last, he came back, Dorothy asked.
Когда он наконец вернулся, Дороти спросила.
When, at last, he came back, Dorothy asked. Have you seen Oz?
Вы видели Оз?
Have you seen Oz? Oh, no, returned the soldier.
Нет, ответил солдат.
Oh, no, returned the soldier. I have never seen him.
Я никогда не видел его.
I have never seen him. But I spoke to him as he sat behind his screen.
Но я говорил с ним, когда он сидел за своей ширмой.
But I spoke to him as he sat behind his screen. And gave him your message.
И передал ему ваше сообщение.
And gave him your message. He said he will grant you an audience.
Он сказал, что предоставит вам аудиенцию.
He said he will grant you an audience. If you so desire.
Если вы того пожелаете.
If you so desire. But each one of you.
Но каждый из вас.
But each one of you. Must enter his presence alone.
Должен войти в его присутствие в одиночку.
must enter his presence alone. And he will admit but one each day.
И он будет впускать только одного в день.
And he will admit but one each day. Therefore, as you must remain in the palace.
Поэтому, поскольку вы должны оставаться во дворце.
Therefore, as you must remain in the palace. For several days.
В течение нескольких дней.
For several days. I will have you shown to rooms.
Я покажу вам комнаты.
I will have you shown to rooms. Where you may rest in comfort after your journey.
Где вы сможете отдохнуть с комфортом после путешествия.
Where you may rest in comfort after your journey. Thank you, replied the girl.
Спасибо, ответила девушка.
Thank you, replied the girl. That is very kind of Oz.
Это очень мило со стороны Оз.
That is very kind of Oz. The soldier now blew upon a green whistle.
Солдат дунул в зеленый свисток.
The soldier now blew upon a green whistle. And at once a young girl.
И тут же молодая девушка.
And at once a young girl. Dressed in a pretty green silk gown.
В красивом зеленом шелковом платье.
Dressed in a pretty green silk gown. Entered the room.
Вошла в комнату.
Entered the room. She had lovely green hair and green eyes.
У нее были прекрасные зеленые волосы и зеленые глаза.
She had lovely green hair and green eyes. And she bowed low before Dorothy as she said.
Она низко поклонилась Дороти, сказав.
And she bowed low before Dorothy as she said. Follow me and I will show you your room.
Следуй за мной, и я покажу тебе твою комнату.
Follow me and I will show you your room. So Dorothy said goodbye to all her friends.
Итак, Дороти попрощалась со всеми своими друзьями.
So Dorothy said goodbye to all her friends. Except Toto, and taking the dog in her arms.
Кроме Татошки и, взяв собаку на руки.
Except Toto, and taking the dog in her arms. Followed the green girl.
Последовала за зеленой девочкой.
Followed the green girl. Through 7 passages and up 3 flights of stairs.
Через 7 коридоров и 3 лестничных пролета вверх.
Through 7 passages and up 3 flights of stairs. Until they came to a room at the front of the palace.
Пока они не пришли в комнату перед дворцом.
Until they came to a room at the front of the palace. It was the sweetest little room in the world.
Это была самая милая маленькая комната в мире.
It was the sweetest little room in the world. With a soft comfortable bed.
С мягкой удобной кроватью.
With a soft comfortable bed. That had sheets of green silk.
Застеленной зеленым шелком.
That had sheets of green silk. And a green velvet counterpane.
И зеленым бархатным покрывалом.
And a green velvet counterpane. There was a tiny fountain in the middle of the room.
Посреди комнаты стоял крошечный фонтанчик.
There was a tiny fountain in the middle of the room. That shot a spray of green perfume into the air.
Из которого в воздух летела струя зеленых духов.
That shot a spray of green perfume into the air. To fall back.
Которые падали обратно.
To fall back. Into a beautifully carved green marble basin.
Красиво вырезанную чашу из зеленого мрамора.
Into a beautifully carved green marble basin. Beautiful green flowers stood in the windows.
На окнах стояли красивые зеленые цветы.
Beautiful green flowers stood in the windows. And there was a shelf with a row of little green books.
А на полке стоял ряд зеленых книжечек.
And there was a shelf with a row of little green books. When Dorothy had time to open these books.
Когда Дороти открыла эти книги.
When Dorothy had time to open these books. She found them full of queer green pictures.
Она обнаружила, что они полны странных зеленых картинок.
She found them full of queer green pictures. That made her laugh.
Которые заставили ее рассмеяться.
That made her laugh. They were so funny.
Они были такими забавными.
They were so funny. In a wardrobe were many green dresses.
В шкафу было много зеленых платьев.
In a wardrobe were many green dresses. Made of silk and satin and velvet.
Из шелка, атласа и бархата.
Made of silk and satin and velvet. And all of them fitted Dorothy exactly.
И все они точно подходили Дороти.
And all of them fitted Dorothy exactly. Make yourself perfectly at home.
Чувствуй себя как дома.
Make yourself perfectly at home. Said the green girl.
Сказала зеленая девушка.
Said the green girl. And if you wish for anything, ring the bell.
И если тебе чего-нибудь захочется, позвони в колокольчик.
And if you wish for anything, ring the bell. Oz will send for you tomorrow morning.
Оз пришлет за тобой завтра утром.
Oz will send for you tomorrow morning. She left Dorothy alone.
Она оставила Дороти одну.
She left Dorothy alone. And went back to the others.
И вернулась к остальным.
And went back to the others. These she also led to rooms.
Их она также привела в комнаты.
These she also led to rooms. And each one of them found himself lodged.
И каждый из них оказался.
And each one of them found himself lodged. In a very pleasant part of the palace.
В очень приятной части дворца.
In a very pleasant part of the palace. Of course this politeness.
Конечно, это вежливость.
Of course this politeness. Was wasted on the scarecrow.
Была потрачена на страшилу впустую.
Was wasted on the scarecrow. For when he found himself alone in his room.
Ибо, оказавшись один в своей комнате.
For when he found himself alone in his room. He stood stupidly in one spot.
Он тупо остановился на одном месте.
He stood stupidly in one spot. Just within the doorway.
Прямо в дверном проеме.
Just within the doorway. To wait till morning.
Чтобы дождаться утра.
To wait till morning. It would not rest him to lie down.
Лежать ему не давало покоя.
It would not rest him to lie down. And he could not close his eyes.
И он не мог сомкнуть глаз.
And he could not close his eyes. So he remained all night.
Так он и просидел всю ночь.
So he remained all night. Staring at a little spider.
Глядя на маленького паучка.
Staring at a little spider. Which was weaving its web in a corner of the room.
Который плел свою паутину в углу комнаты.
Which was weaving its web in a corner of the room. Just as if it were not one of the most.
Точно это не была одна из самых.
Just as if it were not one of the most. Wonderful rooms in the world.
Удивительных комнат на свете.
Wonderful rooms in the world. The Tin Woodman lay down on his bed from force of habit.
Железный дровосек лег на свою кровать по привычке.
The Tin Woodman lay down on his bed from force of habit. For he remembered when he was made of flesh.
Потому что он помнил, когда был сделан из плоти.
For he remembered when he was made of flesh. But not being able to sleep.
Но, не имея возможности заснуть.
But not being able to sleep. He passed the night moving his joints up and down.
Он провел ночь, двигая суставами вверх и вниз.
He passed the night moving his joints up and down. To make sure.
Чтобы убедиться.
To make sure. They kept in good working order.
Что они находятся в хорошем рабочем состоянии.
They kept in good working order. The lion would have preferred a bed.
Лев предпочел бы постель.
The lion would have preferred a bed. Of dried leaves in the forest.
Из сухих листьев в лесу.
Of dried leaves in the forest. And did not like being shut up in a room.
И не любил бы быть запертым в комнате.
And did not like being shut up in a room. But he had too much sense.
Но ему хватало ума.
But he had too much sense. To let this worry him.
Чтобы позволить этому беспокоить его.
To let this worry him. So he sprang upon the bed.
Поэтому он вскочил на кровать.
So he sprang upon the bed. And rolled himself up like a cat.
Свернулся, как кошка.
And rolled himself up like a cat. and purred himself asleep in a minute,
И через минуту замурлыкал.
and purred himself asleep in a minute. The next morning, after breakfast.
На следующее утро, после завтрака.
The next morning, after breakfast. The green maiden came to fetch Dorothy.
Зеленая дева пришла за Дороти.
The green maiden came to fetch Dorothy. And she dressed her in one of the prettiest gowns.
И одела ее в одно из самых красивых платьев.
And she dressed her in one of the prettiest gowns. Made of green brocaded satin.
Из зеленого парчевого атласа.
Made of green brocaded satin. Dorothy put on a green silk apron.
Дороти надела зеленый шелковый фартук.
Dorothy put on a green silk apron. And tied a green ribbon around Toto's neck.
И повязала зеленую ленту Татошке на шею.
And tied a green ribbon around Toto's neck. And they started for the throne room of the Great Oz.
И они отправились в тронный зал Великого Оз.
And they started for the throne room of the Great Oz. First they came to a great hall.
Сначала они вошли в большой зал.
First they came to a great hall. In which were many ladies and gentlemen of the court.
В котором было много придворных дам и джентльменов.
In which were many ladies and gentlemen of the court. All dressed in rich costumes.
Одетых в богатые костюмы.
All dressed in rich costumes. These people had nothing to do.
Этим людям нечего было делать.
These people had nothing to do. But talk to each other.
Кроме как разговаривать друг с другом.
But talk to each other. But they always came to wait outside the throne room.
Но они всегда приходили ждать возле тронного зала.
But they always came to wait outside the throne room. Every morning.
Каждое утро.
Every morning. Although they were never permitted to see Oz.
Хотя им никогда не разрешалось видеться с Оз.
Although they were never permitted to see Oz. As Dorothy entered.
Когда Дороти вошла.
As Dorothy entered. They looked at her curiously.
Они с любопытством посмотрели на нее.
They looked at her curiously. And one of them whispered.
И один из них прошептал.
And one of them whispered. Are you really going to look upon?
Ты действительно собираешься взглянуть?
Are you really going to look upon? The face of Oz the Terrible?
В лицо Оз ужасному?
The face of Oz the Terrible? Of course, answered the girl.
Конечно, ответила девушка.
Of course, answered the girl. If he will see me.
Если он встретится со мной.
If he will see me. Oh, he will see you.
Он с тобой встретится.
Oh, he will see you. Said the soldier who had taken her message to the wizard.
Сказал солдат, который передал ее послание волшебнику.
Said the soldier who had taken her message to the wizard. Although he does not like.
Хотя ему не нравится.
Although he does not like. To have people ask to see him.
Когда люди просят с ним встретиться.
To have people ask to see him. Indeed.
Действительно.
Indeed. At first he was angry and said.
Сначала он рассердился и сказал.
At first he was angry and said. I should send you back where you came from.
Что я должен отправить вас туда, откуда вы пришли.
I should send you back where you came from. Then he asked me.
Потом он спросил меня.
Then he asked me. What you looked like.
Как ты выглядишь?
What you looked like. And when I mentioned your silver shoes.
И когда я упомянул о твоих серебряных туфлях.
And when I mentioned your silver shoes. He was very much interested.
Он очень заинтересовался.
He was very much interested. At last I told him about the mark upon your forehead.
Наконец я рассказал ему о метке у тебя на лбу.
At last I told him about the mark upon your forehead. And he decided he would admit you to his presence.
И он решил, что допустит тебя к себе.
And he decided he would admit you to his presence. Just then a bell rang.
В этот момент прозвенел звонок.
Just then a bell rang. And the green girl said to Dorothy.
И зеленая девушка сказала Дороти.
And the green girl said to Dorothy. That is the signal.
Это сигнал.
That is the signal. You must go into the throne room alone.
Ты должна войти в тронный зал одна.
You must go into the throne room alone. She opened a little door.
Она открыла маленькую дверцу.
She opened a little door. And Dorothy walked boldly through.
И Дороти смело вошла в нее.
And Dorothy walked boldly through. And found herself in a wonderful place.
И очутилась в чудесном месте.
And found herself in a wonderful place. It was a big, round room.
Это была большая круглая комната.
It was a big, round room. With a high arched roof.
С высокой арочной крышей.
With a high arched roof. And the walls and ceiling and floor.
А стены, потолок и пол.
And the walls and ceiling and floor. Were covered with large emeralds.
Были покрыты крупными изумрудами.
Were covered with large emeralds. Set closely together.
Плотно скрепленными друг с другом.
Set closely together. In the center of the roof was a great light.
В центре крыши был большой свет.
In the center of the roof was a great light. As bright as the sun.
Такой же яркий, как солнце.
As bright as the sun. Which made the emerald sparkle in a wonderful manner.
От которого чудесным образом сверкали изумруды.
Which made the emerald sparkle in a wonderful manner. But what interested Dorothy most was.
Но больше всего Дороти заинтересовал.
But what interested Dorothy most was. The big throne of green marble.
Большой трон из зеленого мрамора.
The big throne of green marble. That stood in the middle of the room.
Стоявший посреди комнаты.
That stood in the middle of the room. It was shaped like a chair and sparkled with gems.
Он имел форму стула и сверкал драгоценными камнями.
It was shaped like a chair and sparkled with gems. As did everything else.
Как и все остальное.
As did everything else. In the center of the chair was an enormous head.
В центре кресла находилась огромная голова.
In the center of the chair was an enormous head. Without a body to support it.
Без тела, которое могло бы ее поддерживать.
Without a body to support it. Or any arms or legs whatever.
Без каких-либо рук или ног.
Or any arms or legs whatever. There was no hair upon this head.
На этой голове не было волос.
There was no hair upon this head. But it had eyes and a nose and mouth.
Но были глаза, нос и рот.
But it had eyes and a nose and mouth. And was much bigger.
И она была намного больше.
And was much bigger. Than the head of the biggest giant.
Чем голова самого большого великана.
Than the head of the biggest giant. As Dorothy gazed upon this in wonder and fear.
Пока Дороти смотрела на это с удивлением и страхом.
As Dorothy gazed upon this in wonder and fear. The eyes turned slowly.
Глаза медленно поворачивались.
The eyes turned slowly. And looked at her sharply and steadily.
И смотрели на нее резко и пристально.
And looked at her sharply and steadily. Then the mouth moved.
Затем рот шевельнулся.
Then the mouth moved. And Dorothy heard a voice say.
И Дороти услышала голос, говорящий.
And Dorothy heard a voice say. I am Oz, the great and terrible.
Я Оз, великий и ужасный.
I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you, and why do you seek me?
Кто ты и почему ищешь меня?
Who are you, and why do you seek me? It was not such an awful voice.
Это был не такой ужасный голос.
It was not such an awful voice. As she had expected to come from the big head.
Как она ожидала от большой головы.
As she had expected to come from the big head. So she took courage and answered.
Поэтому она набралась смелости и ответила.
So she took courage and answered. I am Dorothy, the small and meek.
Я Дороти, маленькая и смиренная.
I am Dorothy, the small and meek. I have come to you for help.
Я пришла к вам за помощью.
I have come to you for help. The eyes looked at her thoughtfully for a full minute.
Глаза задумчиво смотрели на нее целую минуту.
The eyes looked at her thoughtfully for a full minute. Then said the voice.
Затем голос сказал.
Then said the voice. Where did you get the silver shoes?
Где ты взяла серебряные туфли?
Where did you get the silver shoes? I got them from the wicked witch of the east.
Я получила их от злой ведьмы Востока.
I got them from the wicked witch of the east. When my house fell on her and killed her.
Когда мой дом обрушился на нее и убил ее.
When my house fell on her and killed her. She replied.
Ответила она.
She replied. Where did you get the mark upon your forehead?
Откуда у тебя отметина на лбу?
Where did you get the mark upon your forehead? Continued the voice.
Продолжил голос.
Continued the voice. That is where the good witch of the north kissed me.
Эта добрая ведьма с севера поцеловала меня.
That is where the good witch of the north kissed me. When she bade me goodbye and sent me to you.
Когда прощалась со мной и отправила к вам.
When she bade me goodbye and sent me to you. Said the girl.
Сказала девушка.
Said the girl. Again the eyes looked at her sharply.
Снова глаза пристально взглянули на нее.
Again the eyes looked at her sharply. And they saw she was telling the truth.
И увидели, что она говорит правду.
And they saw she was telling the truth. Then Oz asked.
Затем Оз спросил.
Then Oz asked. What do you wish me to do?
Что ты хочешь, чтобы я сделал?
What do you wish me to do? Send me back to Kansas.
Отправьте меня обратно в Канзас.
Send me back to Kansas. Where my Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are.
Где живут мои тетя Эм и дядя Генри?
Where my Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are. She answered earnestly.
Серьезно ответила она.
She answered earnestly. I don't like your country.
Мне не нравится ваша страна.
I don't like your country. Although it is so beautiful.
Хотя она такая красивая.
Although it is so beautiful. And I am sure Aunt Em will be dreadfully worried.
И я уверена, что тетя Эм будет ужасно обеспокоена тем.
And I am sure Aunt Em will be dreadfully worried. Over my being away so long.
Что я так долго отсутствовала.
Over my being away so long. The eyes winked 3 times.
Глаза трижды моргнули.
The eyes winked 3 times. And then they turned up to the ceiling.
А потом поднялись к потолку.
And then they turned up to the ceiling. And down to the floor.
Опустились на пол.
And down to the floor. And rolled around so queerly.
И так странно закружились.
And rolled around so queerly. That they seemed to see every part of the room.
Что, казалось, видели каждую часть комнаты.
That they seemed to see every part of the room. And at last they looked at Dorothy again.
И наконец они снова посмотрели на Дороти.
And at last they looked at Dorothy again. Why should I do this for you?
Почему я должен сделать это для тебя?
Why should I do this for you? Asked Oz.
Спросил Оз.
Asked Oz. Because you are strong and I am weak.
Потому что вы сильный, а я слабая.
Because you are strong and I am weak. Because you are a great wizard.
Потому что вы великий волшебник.
Because you are a great wizard. And I am only a little girl.
А я всего лишь маленькая девочка.
And I am only a little girl. But you were strong enough.
Но ты была достаточно сильна.
But you were strong enough. To kill the wicked witch of the east.
Чтобы убить злую ведьму Востока.
To kill the wicked witch of the east. Said Oz.
Сказал Оз.
Said Oz. That just happened.
Это просто так случилось.
That just happened. Returned Dorothy simply.
Просто ответила Дороти.
Returned Dorothy simply. I could not help it.
Я не могла повлиять на это.
I could not help it. Well, said the head.
Хорошо, сказала голова.
Well, said the head. I will give you my answer.
Я дам тебе свой ответ.
I will give you my answer. You have no right.
Ты не имеешь права.
You have no right. To expect me to send you back to Kansas.
Ждать, что я отправлю тебя обратно в Канзас.
To expect me to send you back to Kansas. Unless you do something for me in return.
Если ты не сделаешь что-то для меня взамен.
Unless you do something for me in return. In this country everyone must pay.
В этой стране каждый должен платить.
In this country everyone must pay. For everything he gets.
За все, что он получает.
For everything he gets. If you wish.
Если ты хочешь.
If you wish. Me to use my magic power.
Чтобы я использовал свою магическую силу.
Me to use my magic power. To send you home again.
Чтобы снова отправить тебя домой.
To send you home again. You must do something for me first.
Ты должна сначала сделать кое-что для меня.
You must do something for me first. Help me and I will help you.
Помоги мне, и я помогу тебе.
Help me and I will help you. What must I do?
Что я должна сделать?
What must I do? Asked the girl.
Спросила девушка.
Asked the girl. Kill the wicked witch of the west.
Убей злую ведьму Запада.
Kill the wicked witch of the west. Answered Oz.
Ответил Оз.
Answered Oz. But I cannot.
Но я не могу.
But I cannot. Exclaimed Dorothy, greatly surprised.
Воскликнула Дороти, очень удивленно.
Exclaimed Dorothy, greatly surprised. You killed the witch of the east.
Ты убила ведьму Востока.
You killed the witch of the east. And you wear the silver shoes.
И носишь серебряные башмаки.
And you wear the silver shoes. Which bear a powerful charm.
Которые несут в себе могущественные чары.
Which bear a powerful charm. There is now but one wicked witch left in all this land.
Теперь во всей этой стране осталась только одна злая ведьма.
There is now but one wicked witch left in all this land. And when you can tell me she is dead.
И когда ты скажешь мне, что она мертва.
And when you can tell me she is dead. I will send you back to Kansas, but not before.
Я отправлю тебя обратно в Канзас, но не раньше.
I will send you back to Kansas, but not before. The little girl began to weep.
Маленькая девочка заплакала.
The little girl began to weep. She was so much disappointed.
Она была так разочарована.
She was so much disappointed. And the eyes winked again.
И глаза снова подмигнули.
And the eyes winked again. And looked upon her anxiously.
И посмотрели на нее с тревогой.
And looked upon her anxiously. As if the great Oz felt.
Как будто Великий Оз чувствовал.
As if the great Oz felt. That she could help him if she would.
Что она могла бы помочь ему, если бы захотела.
That she could help him if she would. I never killed anything, willingly.
Я никогда никого не убивала добровольно.
I never killed anything, willingly. She sobbed.
Рыдала она.
She sobbed. Even if I wanted to.
Даже если бы я захотела.
Even if I wanted to. How could I kill the wicked witch?
Как я могла убить злую ведьму?
How could I kill the wicked witch? If you, who are great and terrible.
Если вы, великий и ужасный.
If you, who are great and terrible. Cannot kill her yourself.
Не можете убить ее сами.
Cannot kill her yourself. How do you expect me to do it?
То как вы ожидаете, что это сделаю я?
How do you expect me to do it? I do not know, said the head.
Я не знаю, сказала голова.
I do not know, said the head. But that is my answer.
Но это мой ответ.
But that is my answer. And until the wicked witch dies.
И пока злая ведьма не умрет,
And until the wicked witch dies. You will not see your uncle and aunt again.
ты больше не увидишь своих дядю и тетю.
You will not see your uncle and aunt again. Remember that the witch is wicked, tremendously wicked.
Помни, что злая ведьма, чрезвычайно злая.
Remember that the witch is wicked, tremendously wicked. And ought to be killed.
И ее следует убить.
And ought to be killed. Now go, and do not ask to see me again.
А теперь иди и больше не проси меня о встрече.
Now go, and do not ask to see me again. Until you have done your task.
Пока не выполнишь свою задачу.
Until you have done your task.